let's talk about compound interest. Now, compound interest is really the interest that happens in the real world. So when you have a bank account or a loan, compound interest is the type of interest that gets calculated. So how's it different from simple interest? Well, with compound interest, the interest is calculated on the balance at the time. With simple interest, it's just calculated on the initial amount. However, with compound interest, it's calculated on the balance at the time. So the amount of interest earned is changing depending on what that balance is. So let's step through an example. Riley invests $5,000 into a savings account, earning 4% per annum with interest paid into the account each year. So it's paid yearly or annually. Riley kept it in the account for 3 years. How much was in the account at the end of the 3 years? So let's look at this table. So Riley starts with $5,000 invested. In year 1, they earn 4%, and it's 4% of $5,000, so that's $200. So we add $200 to the balance, so Riley has $5,200. In year 2, they earn 4% interest, but it's 4% interest on this new balance of $5,200. So it's $208 worth of interest. So we add that to our balance and get $5,408. Year 3, 4% of our new balance, $5,408, and that interest is $216.32. So we've got so at the end of year 3, Riley will have $5,624.32. Okay, so you can see how it calculates that interest, based on that new amount, not on that $5,000. If it was simple interest, it'd be earning $200 each year. Okay, but you can see that slowly it's earning more interest each year. So our balance is increasing more each year. So there is a formula we can use to work out that ending balance rather than to have to do it step by step. So using this example, so the $5,000 with 4% interest, let's go through it. Okay, so we start with $5,000. At the end of year 1, the amount we have is 5,000 times by 1.08. Now, you're probably wondering where I get that 1.08 from. Well, 8% written as a decimal is 0.08. Okay, so the 1 is because we want it to grow by 8%. We want it to increase by 8%. So it's almost like that 1 is representing 100% plus 8%, so 108%. So it's 5,000 times by 1 is $5,000 plus the 8%. Okay, but that's how we represent that growth of 8% of 1 plus 0.08 equals 1.08, because that 1 is basically 100%. We want it to grow by 8%. Okay, so that's what year 1 is at the end of year 1. At the end of year 2, we have our amount from the end of year 1 and we times it by 1.08. Okay, year 1 is 5,000 times by 1.08. Can substitute that back in and then times by 1.08. Okay, that's 5,000 times by 1.08 8 squared. At the end of year 3, we've got year 2 times by 1.08. Okay, so year 2 is that. So 5,000 times by 1.08 squared times by 1.08 squared. And I forgot to write that in. So that means year 3, 5,000 times by 1.08 to the power of 3. So you can see, okay, that number there is representing how many times we've calculated interest. That's how many times we've calculated interest. That was our starting amount, and there is an amount related to how much interest we earn each period. So that's how we get this formula here, where A is the amount of the investment at the end of that period. P is the principal, the amount we invested, times by 1 plus R, where R represents the interest rate for that compounding period. Now here our compounding period was a year. And N is saying how many of these compounding periods we have. Now, compounding period, think about it as being how often we calculate interest. Okay, so in this example, we calculated interest yearly. So once a year, we calculated interest. Okay, now we're going to see some examples where we calculate interest a little more often than that. So the amount of interest we earn over time is the amount at the end, take away the amount at the start. So the A, the amount of the investment, take away the principal. So Nicole has $12,000 to invest. They'll invest the money at 7% per annum for 5 years with interest compounded annually. So we'll calculate that interest once a year. All right, calculate the amount to which this investment will grow. How much are they going to have at the end of the 5 years? All right, so our principal is 12,000. Our rate is 7%. So 1 plus 0.07. So our rate is 1.07. And we've got 5 compounding periods. We're going to calculate that interest 5 times. So A equals 12,000 times by 1.07 raised to the 5. So you get your calculator. 12,000 times by 0.07 raised to the power of 5 equals, just want to double check here because money is always to 2 decimal places. Money is always to 2 decimal places, so you have to make sure that you are writing your money to 2 decimal places. Okay, so after 5 years, the amount in the account, Nicole has $30.62. So how much compound interest have they earned? Well, they've ended up with $16,830.62. They started with 12,000. So I'll just go take away 12,000 So they earned over 5 years $4,830.62. Alrighty, so we've got this one. Calculate the future value of an investment of $3,000 at 6% per annum for 2 years with interest compounded quarterly. Now, compounded quarterly means that we do it 4 times a year, every 3 months or quarterly. Okay, so we have our initial amount, which is $3,000. Now, it's 6% per annum, so that's 6% per year. All right, so we don't earn that each quarter, we earn that over the year. So what do we earn per quarter? So 0.6, that's 6% divided by 4 because there's 4 quarters. So that's how much our rate is each quarter, 0.015. Now, in case you're wondering, that's 1.5%, if you are wondering. And now it's 2 years of quarters, so it's 2 years worth of 4 compounding periods per year, so that's 8. All right, so A equals 3,000 times by 1.015 to the 8. Get my calculator. 3,000 divided by 0.015 to the 8. Okay, so at the end of 2 years, they've got $3,379.48. So let's calculate the future value of an investment of $8,500 at 9% per annum for 3 years, compounding monthly. So our initial amount is $8,500. Our rate, we've got 9% per annum, but it's compounding monthly. So there's 12 months in a year. So our 9% has to get split over the 12 months. So that's 0.0075, like that. And we've got 3 years worth of 12 months, so that's 36. So the amount that we're going to earn or going to have in the account at the end is 8,500 times by 1.0075 raised to the power of 36. Get our calculator out. 8,500 times by 1.0075 raised to the power of 36. Okay, just have a look at that. Okay, so we've got 123.49. Remember, it's always to 2 decimal places and rounded to the nearest cent. So at the end of 3 years, they'll have $11,123.49.